Hello, what's going on? Rich here. Today we are talking about gear. We're talking about footwear for Hyrox, which is a very important piece of the race any way that you cut it. So I'm gonna give you my top 4 shoes to wear for Hyrox in the 2022 season. But before we get into it, make sure you check out your free 7-day trial for the reinforced training group, OCR specific training at a fraction of the price. Check the link down in the comments below. You can get started free 7 days, and that's it. Let's get into the footwear. All right, we're starting out with shoe number 4. This shoe is called the Brooks Launch. The Launch was popularized by the world record holder, Hunter McIntyre. If you know Hyrox, you know Hunter. So this shoe is a lightweight trainer. So it was really meant for daily runs, and back when there was no real super shoes, this was kind of a faster, more bouncy shoe. The shoe itself is going to fit really well. It's going to have a bit of a wider toe box, a really solid heel counter, and some good stability all the way through the shoe. For the most part, your daily trainer is probably going to work just because of the rubber that is going to be on the bottom of the shoe. This shoe in particular is going to give you a little bit more pop. The rubber is connected all the way from the forefoot to the heel, so make sure there's a lot of good grip for the sleds and for the actual floor itself. So this shoe will also feel a little bit more stable going around those turns because it does have some overlays on the upper around the laces, and it has a heel counter that's going to really keep you secure in the shoe itself. Some of the cons, this shoe is going to be a little bit heavier. It's not meant to be a racer. It's meant to be every single day to put it on and go out onto the roads. It has a traditional EVA foam, which is basically just a regular shoe. The new racing shoes have these super foams that are injected with nitrogen and have a different compounds. This is just your standard EVA. It's going to be soft, it's going to be sort of bouncy, but it's not going to give you either on the extreme. It's going to be very middle of the road shoe. And it's also going to be a little bit heavier than some of the shoes because it is a really traditional road running shoe that you do for your trainers, and you're not going to get that wow factor, that pop that some of these running shoes are going to give you, some of these new racers are going to give you that the older shoes don't, because this is a model that's been around for quite a long time. So some of the specs to pay attention to: these shoes are 8.9 ounces in a size 9. They have a 34 millimeter stack height, and it's a 10 millimeter offset, so it's going to be stacked a little bit higher, but also at a 10 millimeter, so it's going to put your foot at a bit of an angle, which really is no pro or con for this type of shoe because it's built completely flat, so there's no rocker, so it'll work for all of the stations as well. It's just going to be a very safe, very standard shoe. So if you're worried about not liking shoes, this is a great place to start. Number 3, this shoe is called the Adidas Takumi Sen 8. So this shoe could very well be the best shoe for Hyrox, or it could be well off the bottom because it's a brand new shoe. We don't know too much about how the shoe is going to perform in a Hyrox event. I don't think it's even been available to run a Hyrox yet in 2022. You can now get this shoe. It is available online, anywhere you can get it. And so I'm sure we will see this, and I'm planning on getting a pair myself. So this is very speculative, but the way that it looks fantastic. So most super shoes are designed for the marathon distance. It's going to be straight on for road, and it's going to give you a lot of bounciness, and it's going to be stacked really high with foam. And a really high stack height on these super shoes makes the manufacturers have to strip away the upper so that it can reduce the weight. For that reason, they're really not great going around turns. They don't put a lot of rubber on the bottom for the same reason, because you're going to be running straight in the marathon, and you're not going to be going as intense as you would in a 5K or 10K. So the Adidas Takumi Sen is going to be the first real super shoe that we've seen designed specifically for the 5K and 10K distance. So because of that, it's going to be stacked a little bit lower. It's going to be a little bit faster, a little bit more nimble. It has rubber all the way through the forefoot that's going to help give that grip on the floors and on the carpet for the sleds. The Adidas have also done something interesting with their plated technology. Instead of one solid plate that runs all the way through the shoe, it's actually, they're calling them energy rods. So they kind of run along along your foot, and they're just singular rods, so it's not one plate, so it's gonna be a little bit more flexible. It's supposed to be a little bit more responsive to your foot. It's supposed to work with your foot as opposed to just being more of a propulsion forward. So for that reason, you get some of that good foam to compress and bounce against the rods, but without it being really stiff. So I like the idea of this. So this does have the super foam, which the Launch does not. So this is going to be the Light Strike compound from Adidas. It's going to be lighter. It's going to have more cushion. It's going to have more response. It's just a better foam than what your daily trainer is going to be than what the Launch has. So some of the cons of this is that it's unproven. We don't really know what it's going to be on the carpet. So that rubber on the bottom that looks great, it's a Continental rubber that covers the entire forefoot. It could be perfect. It could also be terrible. So we don't really know. Also, the heel counter on it, it's a little suspect. I like to have a good grip on that heel so your feet don't pop out of the shoe or it doesn't like kind of eat up your sock. And a lot of the super shoes, they don't have too much of that heel counter, again, just to reduce the weight. This isn't a solid heel counter. It looks more like a strap of fabric that kind of comes up, an overlay that kind of comes up high enough to secure your heel in. It might work, it might not. And the rubber itself on the bottom, it looks good, but it might not be textured. You want a good, sturdy, thick texturing on the bottom to really help grip that carpet and to grip that like concrete linoleum type of floor. If it's a slick, non-textured rubber, it might not grip the way that we want to. So this is completely unknown, but it's the first of these 5K, 10K super shoes that we're going to see. It's the first one on the market that you can get right now. We're going to see different options from New Balance and Nike and a bunch of the other companies who are going to make 5K, 10K shoes, which might be the optimal shoe to wear for Hyrox. But right now, this is what we got. So I would suggest giving it a shot. Number 2, we have a second shoe from Brooks here. This is called the Hyperion Tempo. So the Hyperion Tempo is going to have a lot of the pros that the Launch has with some extras. So it's going to have a good upper fit. It's going to have a secure heel counter. It's just a comfortable, great shoe. But it also is going to have the different midsole compound. You're going to get a little bit more of that super foam from this. It has a really good looking forefoot rubber as well. And just the construction of Brooks is always going to be very trustworthy. You know it's going to be a good quality shoe for that. So it's a little bit lighter than the Launch and it's stacked not as high. There's no plate in the forefoot or any type of extra carbon or plastic in there. So it's gonna be a little bit more flexible. You're gonna be able to handle the turns a little bit more. But with that, you're not gonna get that same type of pop that you would get from, say, a Takumi Sen or from like an Alpha Fly or something like that. So it's gonna fit really well and the cushioning is gonna be elevated from your standard trainer. But at the same time, it's not going to give you the same pop that some of these other shoes might. It's a very safe bet. Very comfortable. I think this will be a great option. It's not stacked quite as high. It'll be a really good shoe to try on some of these hybrid races. I think this shoe would be absolutely ideal for a Deca Fit because of how many turns there are and having it a little bit lower to the ground. So it's about 7.2 ounces, 31 millimeters high with a drop of about 8. So you can see everything's a little bit lower, which is going to make it a little bit more stable around those turns. And so for the number 1 shoe of 2022 for Hyrox, I have the RC Elite version 1. So this has an incredible grip on the outsole of the bottom. It's sort of like a turf shoe the way it's constructed. It's not like anything I've seen for a road shoe. It has a little bit of pellets on the bottom, as you can see here, that really helps grip that carpet. And that's the main thing that I'm putting here, is making sure that it can perform for the sleds. A lot of the highest end racers are wearing this shoe currently, and it's been proven to work really well on the sleds and the carpets. It is a plated shoe. It has a like propulsion plate all the way through, so it's going to give you a little bit extra of that, but it doesn't have that rocker construction that some of these shoes might have that you would see in something like an Alpha Fly or a Vaporfly, or something like the Saucony Endorphin Pro, which are going to be rocked a little bit funny, and it's not going to be good for any of the stations that are going to need more of like a stable type platform. So this is pretty flat, so it's good for the wall balls, it's good for the row, it's good for the lunges. It just works. And the foam is incredible. It's very responsive, it's very cushioned, and it's not really stacked as high as some of these other marathon shoes that we've seen in the past. So it gives you a little bit more of that security when going around turns. So the biggest drawback of the RC Elite 1 is that they're on to the next version, and they're not making the RC version 1 really anymore. So you have to kind of find out, seek it out, and grab it while you can. It's still available online. You can still find these shoes, but there might be limited in sizing. So the availability is less than what we would like. And the version 2 is completely revamped. It's stacked really high. The rubber outsole is completely different. It moved directly into the marathon category to compete with the Alpha Flies and the Vapor Flies. So we're going to see something from New Balance that's going to be a little bit more low profile. Hopefully we'll be in the vein of the RC Elite version 1, but right now it's not available. And it can also be a little slippery around some of these slick floors. It's absolutely ideal for the carpet, not so optimal for those type of floors. So the shoe comes in right around 7 ounces. It's stacked 34 millimeters high. At the highest point, it's a 10 millimeter drop. So it's gonna be a pretty standard fit from the heel to toe drop with a very lightweight package and just a great grip on the bottom. So I train and am planning on racing in this shoe because I think it's the best one that we have for 2022. All right, so right there you have it. There's my top 4 shoes. Drop me the comments down below in the racers that you like, what you found, what you think is going to be interesting for next year, any questions that you have about footwear or what you like in general. Also, hit me with a like, hit me with a subscribe if you want more content coming to you about Hyrox and all the different hybrid races that we have going on this year. All right, I'll talk to you soon.